drivers, why was this Uber Eats order paying $20 for what looked like an 8-mile shop and pay order? I've been delivering for going on almost 8 years now, and I could tell this was an unusual, good paying order. But at the time, I didn't know why it was paying so much, or that I was about to run into a problem that could have cost me most of that payout. The customer had forgotten to provide a delivery address, and I had to handle that very carefully while still getting the order delivered. But here's the interesting part. I ended up turning this potential problem into a better customer delivery experience. And she ended up increasing my tip from $11.55 all the way up to $15.57. So the whole payout for this order was an awesome $24.07. I'm going to show you why this order paid so well, and then what I did at the drop-off to increase my tip, and then what to do if Uber Eats gives you an order where there's no delivery address. Because if you handle that wrong, you are going to put your account at risk. I am so excited to share this. The reason that order was such a high-paying one is because this was that customer's very first Uber Eats order. But of course, I didn't know that until well into the delivery at drop-off. So let's back up real quick. So I received this offer, and it came in at $20 for driving almost 8 miles. And it was just a couple items, and it looked like a quantity of 5. So I knew I could be really quick, get in and out of that store, and then get on my way. And from looking at that offer, $20 was a lot for 8 miles. In case you don't know, I would say that Uber Eats base pay was probably paying me about $5 to $6 for that kind of distance. So that's how I knew the rest was a tip. So as soon as I got to that store, I opened it up, and I could see it was some kind of marinara spaghetti sauce, and I knew the section because I know that store's layout. Went right there. I was very easy to find it because you go by color. I scanned the first one, and then I grabbed 5 of them. They were 2-packs, and this was going to be heavy, so I knew I was going to have to bag it properly. I went ahead and finished the order, did all the steps where you go to checkout, using the Plus card, and then taking that picture of the receipt. When I got in my car, I used my food delivery bags, and the checker had just put 1 paper bag in there, and obviously that's not going to be strong enough, so I carried up the order in these delivery bags. I'm going to share the exciting money-making tips first before I get to the part where you really need to protect yourself when you're dealing with Uber Eats, especially if you want to get that full customer tip or any of the tip at all. So at the beginning of this order, I had already initiated conversation with her to let her know I was shopping. And then when I finished checking out on the way to the car, I could see it said meet at door. And this is another, not warning sign, but basically a good news story that this is a newer customer. I already had started that great customer interaction, and it was going to continue here. Before I share how I got that higher tip payout, please share, what is the highest tip that you have ever gotten on Uber Eats? And then also let me know, why do you think that was? All right, here's how I earned all this money with the increased tip. As soon as I got up to the property, I grabbed everything, had them in the bags, carefully bringing them forward, and I could see there was a Tesla service truck on the side. And then I could see a couple people talking, coming from the backyard out front. So as she came around the corner, I was making some small talk. I said, "Hi, I'm Russ. It's great to shop your order. I want to let you know, be careful. This is a heavy item." And then there is that paper bag. Because as you know, here in California, we love paper bags instead of the stronger plastic ones. So she's already familiar with this. I carefully let her know that I would put it up near the doorstep. And as I was setting them down, I just asked her, "Oh, I see that Tesla. Are you getting solar?" And she talked about it for a little bit. And I shared, "Oh, I know that Tesla's expensive, but they are reliable." And I was connecting with her because I've got solar, and I shared some insights into how that's gone. So she also then commented how they have another property in Hawaii, and they have solar on that with Tesla as well. And so I let her know how excited I was for her because she was concerned about, outages. Anyway, we were connecting as human beings. And this is what made all the difference, because this was her first order. She had no idea what kind of customer interaction it was going to be. Is it just you place an order and things show up at your door? But here I'm talking with her and connecting with her, asking her how her day's going, and she can see the human interaction in there. And so this is what really made the deal. She shared with me, oh, this is such a great experience. This is my first order. And so I was setting the stage for all future drivers, anybody that handles her orders in the future. Now they have a chance to get great tips. And the reason this happened is because I gave her a good customer experience where she could see I cared about her order from the beginning all the way to drop off. And that's what I noticed later after the order closed out. After about an hour or so, I did see that she increased my tip, and that was definitely much appreciated. So in total, I made $24.07 driving a little over 11 miles, and it took me 36 minutes if I recall. So those are great earnings, and for the distance, it was great as well. Now, let's get to the serious part if you value your job on Uber Eats. I already mentioned as I was exiting the store and I could see meet at door, I also noticed, there's no address in here. It was just a city. So when I got in my car, I prepared everything. And sure enough, it just was the city. I even checked closer. So right away, I knew I want my money. I want the full pay. So I texted the customer right away. She had already been communicating with me in the store, and I was hoping, please respond quickly. If she didn't text back soon, I was going to call her. And the reason I know this is, again, I have 8 years of part-time experience doing this. If you don't complete the order, what's going to happen is when Uber Eats gets involved, you're going to end up having to cancel the order. And then what they're only going to do is pay you like $3 or $4. And they're going to have all that time of shopping for the order and then returning it. So, hey, maybe at the most you'll make $8. I wanted the 20. Because what happens if Uber Eats ends up canceling or manipulating the order, the end result is if something bad happens and it's gone, you don't get that tip. And that brings up the next good part. Actually, it's not enjoyable. You have to contact Uber Eats, the driver support people, because you need to let them know there's a problem. You have to drop off at the location. If the customer changes the drop-off location, get them involved so that they can see why is there a change. Because otherwise, here's how you're risking your account. You could be accused of fraud, gaming the system, driving further than you're supposed to. And that is not any $20, it doesn't matter the value. It's never worth risking your account. So that's why you always involve the Uber Eats customer agents. So what I did is, again, I don't want to waste time. I already had heard back from the customer. She gave me the correct address. So while I'm driving, I contacted the driver support team at Uber Eats, and I was chatting with them, and I let them know the correct delivery address. And then this was fascinating because the gentleman commented that he didn't say this. He commented, I can see that this is the wrong address. So he clearly had access to the messages in there between the customer and I. So I actually don't know at the time if he changed anything. I was doing my part to make sure that it was accurately reflecting where I was going. And then if you hope for the best with Uber Eats, they would automatically know the additional mileage that I was going, and then they would recalculate the order at some point. But in the moment, I didn't have time to be checking anything. I'm driving. And so I figured that out a couple days later when I saw the order. I'm shocked. The guy actually did put the right address in there. As it turns out, this order was only an additional 3 miles, so it wasn't a big deal. Obviously, you'd have to question, let's say that the mistake was on the edge of one city, but it was actually another 10 miles. Then maybe the pay wouldn't be worth it. But in this case, it all worked out. Incidentally, you will learn that over time, the highest tips, they come from newer Uber Eats customers. And then, of course, on the other end, they come from regular Uber Eats customers that value you as a driver performing this service. Otherwise, they would just go get the food themselves. But sadly, soon enough, you're going to recognize that customers adapt to the system. and they're not bad. They just realize that they can lower their tip enough that the driver's still performing a good service. They're receiving their food hot and fresh, and that's just how it is. And so that's why on average, most customers tip something to make it worth it. Now, of course, there are some customers that don't tip at all or tip very little. And this is getting into the area of a lot of mistakes that drivers can make without even realizing it. I actually made a video highlighting some of these mistakes and solutions to them so that you can thrive as an independent contractor. So watch that video next, and I'll see you there.